Right, there we are. Well, welcome everyone. So what to say about this really? Because there are really just no words to really describe nothing being everything, because it isn't a something. It isn't something which can be objectified. It isn't something which can be put into a context in a way that could be understood, because actually the message doesn't point to an understanding of some kind. It doesn't point to a special state of some kind. It doesn't point to a way of being, a way of feeling even, a way of acting. It has nothing to do with what appears to be happening. The suggestion is what appears to be happening is no thing, as in it is without context. It is without the reality that the individual, the apparent individual, imagines itself to be living in. So that being said, what we can and do seem to talk about, we could say this is a story, but we could say two appearances or something, or two apparent realities, which we could call one as being the natural reality and one as being the separate reality, or the dreamt reality. The dreamt reality is completely illusory. It is entirely dreamt. And the dreamt reality is that there is an individual here in this body, a someone who is experiencing themselves as being present to this, to what is appearing, what's apparently happening. And part of that experience for the individual is that something is lost in that, through that experience or through that knowing. Something seems to be sort of fundamentally sensed as being lost in that, or something missing. And just by the sort of the fact of or the appearance of its presence, it then begins to question itself. It then begins to question its apparent reality. It's looking for a way back to wholeness. And so it will begin to seek, it will begin to look into different ideas. For those who are more sensitive, it will be that experience will begin to question itself, question its reality, and it will do that by sort of exploring different ideas, different concepts. Some of them it could be sort of teachings, that kind of thing, self-help, therapy even maybe. Or religion. And these are all ways for that experience to try and find a way to understand itself so that it can have a better experience with itself. It can become a more contented, more realized self. The individual can become a more happy or more fulfilled person. And that's really not what we're talking about here. That stuff is all well and good. But actually what's being suggested here is just that whole appearance, that whole apparent separate reality in which there is an individual in this is illusory. That's why we could call it the dreamt reality. The other apparent thing that we talk about, the thing that we can't really describe or talk about or point to, because it doesn't have a context, as I was saying, in that sense, is just this as being the natural reality, which is absolutely whole and complete, just naturally as it is already, in that there's nothing lost or missing or unfulfilled about this. And that actually the appearance of the individual, the appearance of this separate reality, is completely illusory, to the point of where it's not actually happening. It's entirely dreamt. So the problem or the dilemma for the individual, for the seeker, is it's never going to find what it's looking for, because it wants the way out of an experience which actually isn't real. The illusion is looking for a way out of the illusion by exploring the illusion. It wants to make the illusion a more fulfilling illusion. And in that, it seems to be that the natural reality that this is already is denied, and it is pushed away or is overlooked. In a way, it's overlooked because it's just too simple and too ordinary and too obvious. The experience for the separate individual is there must be something else, somewhere else, that's better. What I'm looking for or what I long for can't possibly be this already. So it's a bit of a shocking suggestion, as to say that however that's appearing to happen, however that experience may be appearing to happen, or whatever is happening there, to suggest that that is actually already absolute wholeness, absolute fulfillment, absolute completeness. There is no one in this who needs to become fulfilled. There is no one in this who can become whole or who can become one. And the suggestion is even that appearance, that apparent individual, is this natural reality, if we want to even call it that, appearing to be the dream of an individual, or appearing as the illusion that there is someone who is separate from this. And it can be that that experience can suddenly dissolve or fall away. And then the simplicity that is this, the absolute timelessness that is this, the absoluteness, the unknowingness that is what is already, is seemingly revealed, but it's not revealed to a someone as an experience or a state or a feeling. It's just the end of the illusion or the dream that there is something lost or missing in this. So if anyone would like to come on and speak and ask a question, then please do. As I say already, you can type a question into the chat if you'd like to, or if you would prefer, or we can just sit. It doesn't matter, because we're not going to get anywhere, because there's nowhere else to get to. There is no enlightenment at the end of the path. There is no self to realize. Nothing needs to happen for this to be what is already. There doesn't even need to be the end to an illusion, because of course an illusion would suggest it isn't real. It isn't actually happening. How can something that isn't actually happening come to an end? It doesn't, it can't. There is already no one.
So, good morning.
Good morning.
And are you saying that the sense of a separate me is just like anything that apparently happens, or is there something special with that is even less real, so to speak, or how do you express
well, it is an appearance, but it's illusory, as in it's not real. There isn't actually an individual. The sense to be a someone, if you like, seems to come out of a contraction in the body, a sort of an energetic tension, which the apparent individual has absolutely no idea about. But it seems to come out of this tension. This tension seems to arise with a knowing, and then creates the effect of a position. And out of that sort of position, there is then a kind of a sense of a self-awareness. And then we could say that the story of that, or as the story sort of goes on, it's almost as though a kind of a personal identity begins to form around this self-awareness, which then becomes the sort of a knowing of I, a knowing of I am. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is how I feel. This is how I think. these are my emotions, this is my story, this is my life, this is my experience. All of those sorts of effects seem to come out of this contracted energy. And what seems to happen in liberation is this contracted energy can suddenly just, in most cases, sudden. I've heard it can be perhaps slower, but certainly here it seems that was that sort of quite suddenly just dissolved away. And then what seems to happen with that is that it just takes that all sort of notions of a self or of a self-identity, or even really a sense of there being someone here or something in the body, a presence, a position, a location with it. But it's difficult when we talk about it because it sounds paradoxical, because we're sort of saying, well, there's an illusion that falls away, there's a tension in the body that creates the impression or out of which the dream of I am arises, and the dream falls away, and all this kind of thing. I mean, that is actually just a story, because what seems to be revealed in that, or when the natural reality is revealed, if we like, is that there never was a person, and even that appearance, or even the dream, was this, the natural reality, just appearing as that dream to be a someone. But the word dream is meant to imply that it isn't real, it isn't actually happening. What also seems to be characteristic of when there is a sense to be someone here, as being, I am here and I am real, it seems to, part of the dreamt reality is that everything else is real, everything else is there. This is something real. I am something real, and this is something real. And I am moving around in this reality, this real reality. And when the sense to be someone seems to fall away, then the sense of the realness of this also seems to go with it, which is why we use terms like it's no thing being everything, or it's empty fullness, or unknowing, because there isn't a actuality to be able to describe and say, this is it, here it is. There's nothing to present to someone, because there is no one, but there's nothing to present in the way of a teaching, because we're not describing a something. We're describing all there is already, or it's an attempt to point to all there is already, which is this.
Yeah, and that kind of makes this kind of question that I'm trying to push kind of useless, but still it seems to me now that when an animal can get born and then lives for some time and then it dies, that is wholeness appearing as that cow or whatever. But when the sense of a separate me appears and continues some time, and then it can fall away, it seems that that is kind of less real in a sense than the cow. But both are wholeness appearing as that. But it seems like the cow, I mean, well, what do you say?
Yeah, no, totally, absolutely. I would say it's nothing just appearing as those things. Everything is nothing just appearing. But nothing doesn't appear as a something. Nothing is everything, or everything is nothing.
So then now it sounds like you're saying then that this separate me, that can seem so important to that separate me, it's just any appearance, wholeness appearing as that. It's just like any appearance.
It from within the dream, if you like, from within the dream, it seems to be real. So the individual seems to have the experience of itself as being something real. And the paradox, and it's only really a paradox when we're attempting to describe that or talk about that, The paradox is when that dream is over, it's recognized as actually never having happened. It's never having been.
I don't know why I'm pushing this, but the cow, then you wouldn't say when it's dead that it was never there. So in a way, that's more real, perhaps we can say.
Well, I mean, I don't want to get into what is thought and all that kind of thing, but really that just the cow dying is just the thought of a cow dying, isn't it? And, you know, and unless there is just, you know, the appearance of a cow dying. But I would say anything, everything that appears is no thing, absolute emptiness appearing, empty fullness appearing as whatever that is, whatever that seems to be.
Mm. Yeah, I let it go to rest. I don't see we will not get anything anyway. So thank you.
Okay, all right, thanks. Mohammed.
Hi, Ilf.
Hello, hi.
I read your book 1 year ago, and I read it again 1 week ago, and I read it now again. I have some question.
Sure.
Would you say that what's happened here is revealing an illusion which is not there?
Well, that again, that's as I was just saying to Mats before. Yeah, it's the revealing of, it's in a way the revealing of the natural reality as already being everything, and that this appearance of an I am, or this appearance of or this apparent separate experience in which I am is illusory. And illusory in this sense means, yes, that it's revealed as being not real, as in not the case.
You say also there is no one who is having an experience. There is only what appears, which is unknowable. What's the difference between what appears and experience? Some say there is only experience. I hear from other speakers, they say there is only experience. And you say there is only what appears.
I see. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that there is only experience. It's not that it's wrong, but for me to say that this is just pure experience could suggest that there is something which experiences. And in this context, experience and knowing are meant as the same thing. So the knower is having an experience of this, or as an experience to be itself by being present to this, by knowing it. It's I am here, I am real, I am experiencing because I know that. I know that I am here because I am experiencing. It works both way round. So knowing and experience are meant in the same thing. And actually, that's what's revealed as being illusory in the end. There's actually no one who is knowing what this is. The only thing the knower can know is itself. It doesn't, so in the same way, the only thing the experiencer can experience is itself. It doesn't actually experience something else. It doesn't experience the television. It doesn't experience the window or what's happening outside the window. All it can experience, apparently, is itself as being, I am present to the window. I am experiencing myself as being present to the TV. And in that appearance, the TV is over there, the window is over there. What's happening outside is somewhere else. It's objectified in that way. So I wouldn't call this an experience. I mean, we could say it's what apparently happens, but there's no one in it having an experience of it. There is no one to be having an experience of it. All the knower can know is itself as being present to this or to what is, which is why when it senses something unnatural or something lost or missing in its experience of itself, it can only go into the experience of itself to find a way out of itself, because that's all it knows. Which is why, of course, things like self-inquiry and that kind of idea doesn't lead anywhere. It doesn't get you anywhere. It may get you to just another understanding of some kind, but it's an illusion exploring into the nature of an illusion. It's something that isn't actually real, exploring into something that isn't actually real, to try and find a way out of something that isn't actually happening.
So, for example, when there is a sound, there is a sound and there is a hearing, and the hearing happened by no one.
Mm. But there isn't a sound. There isn't a sound and then a hearing. There's just sound happening.
Okay.
No one's hearing sound.
Happening of a sound. Well,
yes, so there isn't a sound and then something or someone hearing the sound. There is just sound happening.
So when sound happening, that's what's happening. That's not an experience.
There's no one to experience that as a knowing. Sound just
when there's
happening.
One, it's an experience.
No one to experience themselves as hearing a sound.
Yeah, okay.
That's the dream. That's the dream, that there is someone hearing a sound. There's just sound happening.
Thanks so much.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Hello again. Do you prefer, by the way, to raise the hand like that?
Well, it doesn't matter. It's okay. You can just come in. Yeah, it's easier if people raise a hand. I'm still getting a hang of spotting people in the participant list.
Okay,
I
will use the hand the next time.
Yeah.
Let's see if I still remember the question. Oh yes. So would you agree with this description then? There is what apparently happens without any structure whatsoever, and then the sense of separation projects an artificial structure on everything, with me in the center, and then whatever else.
In a way, yes. In a way, or well, that would be a description of the illusion or of the dream. Yes, so there is someone experiencing. There is someone here, or there is someone experiencing what seems to be happening.
And that separate me is not aware of it, but it's quite a lot of work to keeping up this thing.
Well, it can be quite tiring. A lot of people would report that, wouldn't it? That it seems to be, or can be, a neurotic experience. This being an individual does seem to be a neurotic experience, because of course, when there is no one, there's just nothing. There's no sort of self-reflection going on.
No work needed. It just.
No, well, there's no one. There just is no one. There just is no one to do anything.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Hi again.
Hello. Hi.
I noticed in your book that first, before liberation, before the me falls away, the belief that they all believe about liberation and awakening dropped.
Yeah.
So first, the belief dropped away. Then the apparent
Well, there's no one left in liberation. The individual can't survive liberation, so there's no one left to be having beliefs about something. Part of the dream seems to be to have beliefs about this, or ideas about this, or concepts, or conceptualizations about the nature of what this is. In the end, no one knows, because there is no one to know. As we were talking about a minute ago, there's no one left having an experience, or there is no one to experience what appears to happen. It's just what seemingly happens.
Yes, but we have a false belief about liberation. That's also a problem.
Well, the individual, oh, I see, yeah. So the individual has certain ideas about liberation and what it thinks liberation is, or what's going to happen, or something that needs to go, something about something that needs to happen, or something that's going to happen sometime to it in the future. And it just doesn't. It just, liberation in that sense never happens. You could say liberation is the end of the need for something called liberation to happen, because what's left in the end is nothing for liberation to happen to. So we could equally say all there is liberation, because it isn't a happening, it isn't a something that happens to a someone, which then changes this, or what is, or the natural reality, which is why it's paradoxical to say there's a natural reality and then a dreamt reality and all this kind of thing. All of that is the dream story. The dream story is that there is someone who needs to find something called liberation in order to be free. This is already absolutely unconditionally free. It's just unbelievable to experience. And what's even more unbelievable to that experience is even that appearance to be an individual, or that sense to be someone who is trapped or not free or looking for something, is absolute unconditional freedom appearing as that. That's the unbelievable part. That's the part the individual cannot accept. The mind just cannot accept that. So whatever is happening there is what's longed for. It is home. It is unconditional freedom. Freedom is so unconditional, it can even appear to be not free, or as something not free.
Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. There's nothing special about what we're talking about here. There really isn't. There's absolutely nothing special about this whatsoever. I mean, in a way, it's quite the opposite. It's you could almost say it's a, no, I wouldn't say it like that. But it's just not. It's not a special state. This hasn't got something that hasn't. This hasn't realized something that hasn't yet realized. There's nothing to other than there's nothing to realize. This hasn't realized there's nothing to realize. There is just nothing to realize. I'll have to play music at this point. Some nice meditation music. Or some Cannibal Corpse or Napalm Death, maybe punk or something.
That sounds like meditation music.
It could be.
Depending on how deep shit you're in.
Yeah. Although I a long time ago I used to work with people who were on the autistic spectrum, sort of varying levels, or it's not perhaps the right way to put it, where they would there was one or two guys that I worked with who really enjoyed really loud thrash metal music because it was soothing, apparently.
You should have, when you're waiting for a phone, you know, like you call some agency and you get this.
Oh yeah, on hold. Yeah, I should have the 3 dots just appearing as a wave. Yeah, the processing, buffering. Neil Denham is buffering. Dimitri.
Hey Neil.
Hey.
So, would usually say that, like, if there is a contraction, it is like wholeness appearing as contraction or something like this.
Yeah.
But this is like of no use to the one who is in contraction. It's like
no. It's completely. It is completely hopeless, because even that apparent contraction in the body that the dream of me seems to arise out of or with is not separate. No, it's not separate, and there's just no way of. I'm sure I've talked about the. I know I've talked about this before in the past. There's just absolutely no way to feel or sense what that is. And I'm sort of also talking about a contraction in the body makes it sound like something has to happen. A contraction needs to fall away, or a tension needs to dissolve in order for the I am to dissolve. I mean, it's kind of the same thing. This contraction and the dream of I am are in a way the same thing, or the dream seems to arise out of this contraction in the body, and really that can only be said because it's as that contraction is felt to be leaving the body, or it certainly seemed to be here, that the whole sense to be, the whole kind of self-awareness in that sense goes with it. So really the whole dream story seems to just crumble at that point.
So what do you mean by contraction in that sense? Feels more like
it's energetic.
Some sort of sense of location or something like that.
It seems to create, the contraction seems to create a sense of a position, and it's out of that sense of a position, if you like, that the dream of I am sort of comes, sort of, because it's a sense of a position which is then a here, and really this is the beginning of that sort of dualistic dream, that there is something here, or then becomes someone is here. Well, what's here? I am here. Well, this is me. I'm here. How do I know I'm here? Because I feel like I'm here. Feels like there's something here experiencing, which is the same as something here knowing. And that's just the function of the knower itself, is to know. The knower and the knowing are the same thing. So it never actually knows anything or experiences anything. But that seems to stop happening. or the dream seems to crumble with the, was that, that when that contracted energy melts away, it seems to take the dream of I am with it.
And sometimes, like, I experience this sort of like extreme squeezing or tension in the body. So you would not call this a contraction?
I don't think so. I mean, obviously, I don't know what's happening in that body. I have no way to know that, but you can sort of get a sense for where people are coming from, you know, when we're talking about this. My sense is that most people are talking about a kind of an anxiety type state, maybe, that's creating a physical tension in the body. And in a way, I would say it would be closer to say it's more of a metaphysical tension, because the contraction seems to be in everything else too. It seems to be when that contracted sense of self melts away, everything else opens up.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. And it's actually, I mean, it can be quite a shock to the system. It's almost like this body had to find its legs. It didn't, but it's almost felt like that for a while. It's just kind of in everything. I mean, there was just there was so much tension, just it seemed, in the chest and the fingertips, and I mean, we're talking about something energetic, so it's really difficult to put into any kind of actuality or context, because it isn't contextual. It just isn't. But that apparent energy isn't a someone, it isn't an individual. There is no one, there is no individual. But it just seems to be that the dream, the illusion seems to arise out of that contraction. It's just boundless energy, because it is boundless or absolutely wild and free. It can also appear in the form of a contraction, it would seem. That's.
Yeah, now I do it correctly.
Oh yes, well done.
With my new favorite word, structure, then you could say that this is so lacking in structure. There is really no structures to the extent
there is no structure.
That even having the illusion that there is a structure, even that is
without
possible.
Structure. Absolutely. Yeah. No, there is no structure. No.
And that is why you and other speakers, I guess, say over and over again that it's not a teaching, because then there would be another structure telling you that there is no other, you know.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Well, there could only be a teaching if this had found something out that it could tell you about.
And that would be what I call a structure.
I mean, usually, no matter how kind of humble the teacher may be coming across, and you know, they may be genuinely nice, humble. You know, most people generally are nice people, and it's all well-meaning and probably helpful for some people. So there's no kind of disrespect meant in that sense. But the whole energy setup of a teaching is that this knows something you don't, or this is somewhere. In some cases, it might be this has gotten somewhere where you aren't. Which to me implies a specialness, as I say, no matter how apparently humble the teacher or whoever, or however that setup is, may come across. I think there's still it still creates the sense of something special. And I'm sure that probably goes on with this message too. And, you know, this can't say there's nothing special enough times to, you know, that's just what's happening. I mean, it can't, the individual can't help but look at what we're talking about as being something special that it hasn't got and needs to know and find out what it is. It's just absolute, it is the pointing to this as it is already as being absolutely home. Just, there is just no one to be lost or to leave or become lost. There's no one lost in a dream of themselves. That is the dream. The dream is that there is someone dreaming about something called separation. That's just not the case. And that seemingly remains hidden for as long as that seemingly remains hidden. But yes, this is completely without structure, because there's no one in it there is no one in it to know this, or to, as an experience, to be able to then tell you about it.
Mm. And also it's making us to fantasy. If there were someone who could say, you know, I found freedom, I can show you the way to freedom, that would be a limitation on freedom, that having that, you know.
Well, I think that's probably someone who feels that they have found something, or have realized something, and they think it would be helpful to other people who are looking for the same thing. I think that's all completely innocent. I mean, it just all comes out of a misunderstanding, of course.
Yeah.
And the misunderstanding is that freedom is lost. It isn't.
I'm beginning to see things as different nuances of the cosmic joke, because it's kind of ridiculous, the whole thing, in a way.
Do you want to know what the cosmic joke is? I'll tell you.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, please.
The cosmic joke is there is no cosmic joke.
Okay. That was a new variation for me.
That's the joke.
Yeah.
That's what's
yeah, of
funny.
course, that is the joke. Yeah, of course.
That's
yeah.
what's funny in the end.
I see it now. Yeah. Maybe you can try some Advaita stand-up.
Yes, yeah, well, we could, yeah. Yeah, but you could just stand there silently for your 10-minute slot and see if anyone laughs or not. Isn't there a story of one of the Buddha's disciples who, gosh, I'm digging 20 years back into my memories here, of what wasn't the Buddha's first disciple? Didn't the Buddha just
I
sit
know what you mean.
silently and hold up a flower, and then one of the monks laughed, and he ended up being the next Buddha?
The story, the version I heard, you know, Buddhists don't really laugh. You know, he was just smiling.
Oh.
So that is the version I heard. Yeah.
I've got a dear friend he's actually a Buddhist monk, and we laugh all the time about really inappropriate things.
I was just joking, but I mean, in the story, you know, you're supposed to.
Yeah. No, it just sort of speaks to, or that what we're talking about, I think, just highlights this whole kind of specialness, that you have to do something, you have to be a certain way, or there is a certain way to be, there is a certain way to think, there is a certain way to feel, which equals enlightenment. There's a special state, there is something that someone has to get to in order to be enlightened. And yeah, that's the dream.
And having this constant peace, it's supposed to be freedom. It seems like a prison.
Yeah. Well, again, that's a condition, isn't it?
Yeah.
The individual loves conditions. It's making bargains with everything all the time. It even is making bargains with freedom. This is freedom as long as it looks like this. This is freedom as long as it goes this way. This is freedom as long as this doesn't happen, or this doesn't happen, or this feeling doesn't arise, or this thought doesn't happen. You know, it's conditional all the time. The dualistic reality, or the dreamt dualism, is conditional, because the individual is just making deals with everything all of the time. It's got conditions. I can exist, or I can be, or I can not be, whatever the case may be. I cannot exist. I can be a no one as long as it's like this or this or this. There's no one to become no one. There's no one to be a certain way. And unconditional freedom means it is everything, however that's appearing, even, as I've already said, even as an apparent experience which says this isn't free. And that's all that seemingly falls away, is the end of an experience which says this isn't free. That experience never finds freedom. Liberation is never found, enlightenment is never found. So I don't know, maybe that was the meaning of the story of the Buddha's disciple. He suddenly realized, there was a sudden recognition there that there was no joke to understand. There was nothing to understand in the Buddha's teachings. Maybe, I don't know, I'm just speculating, making up a story. But the joke is that there isn't a joke. And that's what's funny.
A completely different question. I know you have a book. What is the best way for you so that most of the money comes to you? I'm in Sweden to get your
it's on Amazon. You can order it on Amazon.
Amazon England, then I guess.
No, I think you can get it pretty much wherever Amazon is. It's different. It's different derivatives of Amazon, isn't it? But yeah, you can. It's on all, as far as I'm aware. It's on all, wherever Amazon is available. Then it's
And it doesn't matter for your royalty in any way.
Well, it goes through Amazon.
Whatever way I try to get it, it will be. Okay.
Yes, yeah. It goes through Amazon. They get a small amount, and I get a small amount for each book that sells. Yeah. Oh yes, as someone just wrote there. Yeah, you can get it as an ebook as well, which is just slightly cheaper because it presumably doesn't have the manufacturing costs. And if you're Kindle Unlimited, you can get it free.
You can see behind me that is not my style, ebooks.
No, right. Yeah.
Hi, Neil.
Hi, Laura. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Yeah.
Good to hear that. So there was just like, my impression is whoever I listen to, like sharing this kind of non-sharing, I sense in within all of you something like a very natural easiness, something like a very natural easiness. it is like as if this is radiated through the body somehow, like, yeah. And I can, of course, it is like different from any speaker. So yeah, that's what I just wanted to share.
I've heard it. I sort of know what you mean. Although, you know, I would revert to there's really nothing happening here.
Yeah.
It's the message has no charge.
Yeah.
I know Jim says that sometimes, or I'm pretty sure I've heard him say that. There's no charge to it. For me, you know, it's like if you go to a TED talk or watch a TED talk, it's quite often, particularly if it's someone who is, there's an attempt to inspire in some way, I think, with the words, as in it has a charge, a positive charge to it. And you know, I would also say a lot of kind of non-duality teachers. You know, I've seen videos on YouTube and people that I've listened to. My sense is when it's coming from someone, is there's a charge with it. It's like, oh, this is really cool. I want you to get it because it's brilliant. Wow, you know. And it's like, okay, the message might come across in that way. Depends on whatever mood or feelings going on at the time, I guess. But you know, there was always this need. There's a needy sort of sense in, you know, you know, I need you to get this or have, you know, have a positive experience with this. And to me, that's just how the individual is with another individual, particularly with, you know, sort of talking about something like this. You know, when when you meet people, they talk about themselves a lot. I was at a family thing a few days ago. People talk about they you know, and they do, and then they ask you about yourself and what you're doing, and you know, and this tends to respond, I think, as far as I know, or can know, this responds in a way kind of probably every other body does. But you know, they're always sort of telling you sort of what's going on for them, how they are experiencing themselves. That's what they're never telling you, how they are experiencing their lives. Actually, they're telling you about how they're experiencing themselves in their lives or in their apparent lives.
Yeah.
So you get that whole thing. I mean, the dream of separation for the individual is such that it even feels itself to be separate to itself, in that it's constantly having to work on a relationship with itself. A relationship is something which exists in between two apparent things, of course. So it's even separate to itself in that way. It's just a bit of a joke in a way, but you know, you are just meeting this kind of, I suppose, you know, you might call it this ego that is telling you how they are experiencing themselves, and you know, that kind of thing is funny. And there's an expectation for this to respond in that way, and it, as I say, as far as I could know, a response would be the same as, I guess, just sort of normal, what you might call normal. But yeah, that's the funny thing. When you meet another individual, and there's an energy to it, there's just a sense to it, there's a sense to it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, yeah, I can like when you were describing this family gathering, like here it is like even like meeting some friends. It often happens that it's like a motor mouth of I going on, and I just found myself more or less enjoyable listening. But it's like, in a way, I can even there I can sense it, that I can sense that and that sounds like a process, but I think for me that it has somehow lessened somehow.
That can relax. But I think certainly with that seems to be the dynamic of a teaching, doesn't it? You know, there's something that I want you to get. There's someone here who wants someone there to have an experience with what this is talking about. And from here, as far as what this is talking about, you never will have an experience of it. You never will have an experience of it. because it may just turn out that you're not there. And then the whole thing's over, man. The whole thing comes crashing down. This is not what the individual's looking for. There's a question here. I still have preferences when people talking a few times about that they have tried to commit suicide. I don't like that. Or when they are talking that they want to be dead, then I break the connection. Yeah, sure. Well, that could be a difficult conversation for anybody to have, I'm sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would say that there are still preferences here with apparent people, so to speak. They can be like or dislike, or an enjoying of the energy of one apparent person, or not enjoying the energy of another apparent person. But of course, no one's here that is sort of having an experience with that. That seems to just sort of naturally happen. There seems to be a natural avoidance, I would say, that of you know, it's sort of, yeah, there can be a natural avoidance of some people. There can be a natural, or a bit, you know, or being a kind of attracted to, you know, the energy of someone else and enjoying spending time with someone else, so to speak, of course. Yeah, this isn't about becoming just sort of neutral. That's the other thing. So when we're saying this message has no charge, it's not suggesting that everything should be neutral. There's no charge to this message in that sense, because it isn't a positive and it isn't a negative. But it's not, you know, there's no suggestion that one becomes okay with everything, or I've forgotten the word. No, it's not ambiguous, or accepting of everything, or being okay, bypassing, isn't it? That's a word that can come up a lot. You know, it's just, no, it's whatever appears to happen, appears to happen. So that's any apparent emotion, any apparent feeling or thought or whatever. Yeah, yeah. Nothing is denied at all. Nothing is pushed away or being bypassed. Who would be bypassing? There's no one. There's no one here. Dimitri.
In that sense, would you say that even though there is no choice maybe, but would you say it is kind of more natural for someone who is apparently separate to just express this separation instead of just trying to appear as non-dual and like
oh, I don't even know, man. I mean, yeah, I've certainly met people who are trying to come across as non-dual. I'm pretty sure. I'm sure you can find them on the internet. Yeah.
I mean more like, you know, sometimes I feel when I'm really like trying to find something when I'm talking with people, like trying to get something, like I can almost feel that, but I cannot help it.
Well, but that's the dream, though, that you are there sort of having an experience with what's happening in the conversation with someone else. That's in the end, you know, that is the dream. So there's nothing here reflecting on conversations or having a conversation. I mean, it's just really happens as that kind of immediacy, and it's actually the same there. That is what I would say to that also. That's actually the same there. It's just that there may be a dream that there is something having an experience, and there is an I having an experience of communicating with other eyes.
The reflecting is like I think that it can be really shitty. Like I was doing the dishes yesterday, and it was just doing the dishes, but then suddenly it was like, oh my god, I'm doing the dishes, and like what I'm doing this and that, and then it's like this tension, and yeah, like the reflection is totally
yeah, that all falls away. Yeah, or certainly seems to, or gets much quieter. It's not that there are no thinking about doing something, or no thoughts about doing something, or doing appearing to do something and then having thoughts about doing something else at the same time. I mean, yeah, I mean, just, yep, can be like that. But there's no one left to be having, or there's no one left to be having a relationship with themselves. So there's no one left who needs to kind of work on this relationship with themselves. So there's just no one being the right way or the wrong way anymore. Which is usually what that sort of self-talk is about, isn't it? You know, oh, I did that right, I did that wrong, or oh, I should be better at this, or I should do this more, or I should do less of this. And that's all the kind of the response to just that self-awareness. Yeah. It just questions everything. Nothing is enough. So for even the enlightened teachers, that's not enough. Okay, go on then, Mats, and then we'll.
Yeah, maybe I wait until the evening. I will mention the thing, because in this connection, so there is no self-relation, so no work on the self-relation, but there could still be traumas, and that would be yeah, that would be interesting for me to speak about. But I will be back in the evening, so maybe we can.
Yeah, we can talk about that later. But I mean, it's really quite simply that I would say that trauma seems to be stored in the body. The brain seems to can store trauma. It seems to be. It's got nothing to do with a person. But what does seem to happen is when there is the sense to be someone, then of course there can be the sense to be someone who is just. Well, when there is, let's put it this way, when there is no one, there's no one taking the memories of the trauma out to dinner and taking it dancing and buying it coffee and, you know, trying to get it to come home with him.
But they're not pushing it away either.
No, of course not. No, of course not. No, and equally, there's no one to push that away either. So I would say that if there has been trauma, and then you know, and it's causing problems, then that might be worked on in exactly the same way as if there's physical trauma. You know, if this cuts its finger, it will probably hold it or run it under a tap or something. There will just be a natural responding to that apparent trauma in the physical sense. I just don't really see that as being any different. Yeah.
Oh, that's very clear. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, those of you who fancy coming back at 4 o'clock, my time, UK time today, great. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.